Hey, I am hoping my microphone is working. I was having a little bit of technical difficulties a little while ago. I think they've been resolved. It's been so long since I've done a stream or a video that I almost feel like I forgot how to set it up correctly. So it's been a bit of a rough start tonight, but that's okay. We will press on. So the first uh, topic I wanted to cover tonight, and I actually do have a bit of an agenda, so um, I'm hoping this will end up being a pretty nice presentation. I think it'll flow pretty well. Um, but this is an update to a story I posted on my uh, page recently, and basically, I came across this story where this little almost 3 year old girl, Lachlan, was mauled to death by, of course, one of the family pit bulls. And apparently, that same dog had, within the last couple weeks before her death, mauled her already to the extent that she required reconstructive surgery or plastic surgery. But there have been some updates to this case apparently, so um, it's pretty disturbing, just word of warning. And apologies, my voice is a little raspy. I think I have a bit of a mild cold, sore throat situation going on, so we'll see how long I can last on this stream, but I have a lot I want to talk about. Um, so, um, Abigail Ogle, who is a news reporter local to where this mauling took place, KOCO in Oklahoma City, barely managed to hold herself together in reporting Lachlan McGuire's death. Two parents in Oklahoma City have been arrested on complaints of second-degree murder. Ogle began after their 2 year old daughter, Lachlan, was mauled to death by, of course, always a family dog. On November 17th, 2025, Ogle continued. Oklahoma City police were called to the house for a welfare check at about 11:30 p.m., where the girl's mother reportedly told officers, quote, "My daughter got ate by the pit." Once inside, police found Lachlan's body covered in bite marks and other gruesome injuries. Officers said the little girl had been locked in a room with the dog, one of four pit bulls in the home who killed her. So that's a part of this story that's emerging that really stood out to me is that something IHD has mentioned in the past, which I think could come across as maybe a bit of a reach, is the concept that there are some sick, twisted individuals out there who might actually intentionally put their child in harm's way by using a dog. Um, because it kind of makes sense, right? Like, as we've seen, there's a lot of cases where a child will be, or a person will be mauled to death, and the owner of the dog, if it can even be found, like, basically can get off scot-free, essentially. Like, one example is those parents in Tennessee. Their name is escaping me. It might come back to me, but they had those uh, pit bulls that were some like specific breed or line um, known for being like highly aggressive. And anyways, they had them for like 8 years before the dogs went ham and mauled to death both of the children. One was like an infant, the other basically a toddler, and sent the mom to the ICU. Those parents are out basically living their best life. It's like as though nothing had even happened. It's really strange. how there's kind of, if you find their current social media and stuff, there's essentially like no mention whatsoever of the fact that they had two children who, died in a horrific manner. It's almost like, they started a new life and like their old life doesn't even exist. It's really strange, and like I'm not here to judge people's grief or how they process trauma and stuff like that, but the whole thing just seems very sus. So what I'm trying to get at is some of the details emerging around this Oklahoma City case where nothing was done after the dog had already attacked this girl, and then she was locked in a room with the dog. It just kind of begs the question, like, did the parents intend for this to happen? It kind of seems that way, and again, they're being arrested on second-degree murder. Um, so continuing on, Oklahoma City Animal Welfare removed all four dogs because, of course, these people always have like multiple pit bulls with young children. Um, anyways, Oklahoma City Animal Welfare removed all four dogs from the home and noted that three appeared to be malnourished. So here again is the kind of thing that is upsetting. I think that the focus should be on investigating what actually happened, and did the parents, you know, willfully cause this to happen, basically. Like the focus here should be on this victim, but they always have to make sure to go out of their way and act like the dogs are victims as well. Anyways, that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. Both parents were taken to the station for interviews where police said the father stated, "I just have a feeling my gut's telling me I'm going to jail." Uh, Posted Ogle to Facebook afterward, "I'm going to keep it simple and stick to the facts, as I couldn't even get through my 5 p.m. report without emotion. 2-year-old Lachlan was locked in the room with the same dog who had already attacked her in the past. The dog had severed her ear weeks before the deadly encounter." And I want to point out, I'm pretty sure that weeks is like maximum 2 weeks. I mean, this had just happened. Um, the parents told police they kept the dog in their toddler's room because the dogs would kill their other dogs. The door had a double lock so the child couldn't escape. So this is what I'm talking about, like with there like a sense of intention here. I mean, this is torture. I think they should be charged with more than second-degree murder. Um, because there's something clearly not right with this in multiple ways. Um, so updated Oklahoma City Free Press founder and editor-in-chief Brett Dickerson, according to Staff Sergeant Dylan Quirk with the Oklahoma City Police Department, Jordan McGuire, 34, and Darcy Lambert, 24, were booked into the Oklahoma County Detention Center and remain in the Oklahoma County Jail as of publication. Each have their bond set at $1 million. Impounded along with the four pit bulls were reportedly a pet rat and two pet lizards. There seems to be a common thread sometimes with these dog nutters that they also just are animal hoarders in general, sometimes. Anyways, I'm sure the conditions of that home were um, horrendous. That doesn't really get touched on here. Um, I think it's strange, and I'm still looking for more details on why this dog or situation hadn't been reported after the first incident. But even if it has been, even if it was reported, it wouldn't surprise me if nothing were done about it. Um, as is too often the case, it seems like nothing ever gets done about these types of situations until the worst possible outcome has already occurred, and then only then is anything done, and it's too little too late. But they always seem to say how could we have ever seen this coming? We could have never known this would happen. There's no way you can say that in this case, especially that, she was fatally mauled only a couple weeks after being, disfigured by the same dog. So, and I also want to point out again that they locked a dangerous, vicious, known aggressive dog that had already mauled their beautiful child in a room with her to protect the other dogs. Like, there's just something beyond. I mean, you can look at these people, they look like what you would expect, I guess, in a situation like this. But there's something clearly very, very wrong here when it comes to the level at which our society has people in it that will prioritize a dog's safety over their own child's, much less, other people's children in society in general. There's just something seriously missing with way too many people in our society when it comes to having concern for those around you. I can't even, it's like I can't even understand how something like this could happen. I can't wrap my mind around the way these people are. And so I also found a news report on this story from uh, this news channel 9. Let's see if I can. My computer's bugging out a little bit. Let's see if I can play some of this.
Have been charged with second-degree murder.
News 9's Elizabeth Fitz spent the day trying to get answers from the Department of Human Services. They're the ones who investigated the very first incident.
That's right, Amanda. Police say Jordan McGuire, Lachlan Rose's dad, admitted he routinely kept the dog named Ella inside Lachlan's room because she fought the other dogs in the house, even describing her as a dog that would go in for the kill. 2-year-old Lachlan Rose needed plastic surgery after her family's pit bull named Ella severed her ear on November 6th. OU Children's Hospital contacted DHS, which started an investigation into the matter. According to an Oklahoma County arrest warrant for the girl's parents, neither OKCPD nor OKC Animal Welfare were called.
So, I mean, this clearly would be a dangerous dog. It comes down to whether or not the child welfare worker thought that there was a threat of imminent harm.
12 days later, police were called to Northeast OKC in reference to a 2-year-old not breathing. The caller said, quote, "Oh, it ate her," end quote. Officer.
Is this not just absolutely wild? I mean, that's not even close to really capturing the horror of this situation. Um, I mean, this is beyond just, it's just sick. Like, it's just completely unbelievable. I'm gonna go back to this other article really quick too, because there's more to go over, but let's continue with this news report.
Officers arrived to find a gruesome scene, fatal injuries to the child's head and neck. Investigators learned even after Lachlan was attacked the first time, her parents continued to lock her in the bedroom with the dog, which left her vulnerable to the deadly attack. DHS said in a statement, quote, "The loss of any child's life is heartbreaking, and our Oklahoma Human Services team grieves with the community. The agency is committed to working in collaboration with all involved agencies as they investigate this tragic situation and gather the facts." While we cannot speak to the specifics of this case, this is a devastating reminder of the importance of creating safe environments around pets in the ways children and animals interact, end quote.
Again, what kind of statement is this? Like, you're reporting on a 2-year-old being eaten, in the words of her own parents, by a vicious dog that had already attacked her. And the statement you're making is just this weird, like, weak, mealy mouth, like, it's important to create safe environments for pets and the ways children and animals interact. Like, what do you mean the ways children and animals interact? Like, a toddler is not interacting with a pit bull. What, like, it's a toddler is being mauled to death by a pit bull. There's no way to create a safe environment in which the animal that you're calling a pet is a vicious dog. Anyways, like, these aren't even band-aids for the situation. It's just we're at a point in society where everyone's willing to basically just hand wave children being killed on a consistent basis at this point by these animals that we're calling pets. Like this neglectful, abusive, couple had multiple deadly animals in probably like, I don't know, a small enclosed home in which they were locking their toddler in a room with a dangerous dog to protect their other dogs. Like, I just can't even believe something like this is real. Okay, continue.
Police said 3 out of the 4 dogs removed from the residence appeared malnourished. Ella's ribs and hip bone were clearly visible through the skin. State statute allows DHS to release information.
Again, I don't know if you caught that because they are using human names for these vicious killers. So they used a name for this vicious dog that ate a toddler. And made sure to point out that like the dog was starving and skinny and stuff. What was the condition of the 2-year-old girl? Was she malnourished? Like why is there any reporting whatsoever on the condition of the dog? Like, am I insane? I feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone. Like, why are we reporting on, oh, you could see the poor dog's like ribs or whatever? Like, I don't care. I hope they immediately euthanized it and every other dog that was there. That's another thing. Did I miss it, or have they said like what they did with the other dogs? Have they all been euthanized? I don't even know. They're probably out trying to adopt out the other dogs that were there. Anyways, I don't think they report anything else past this point. They make some like blanket statement about not being able to release certain information yet. Let's see if there's anything in the actual text here. Yeah, so the fatal attack happened just 12 days after the dog severed her ear, which required plastic surgery. So it was only 12 days between the initial attack and the fatal attack. It does say that OU Children's Hospital contacted Oklahoma Department of Human Services on November 6th, which started an investigation into that matter. According to Oklahoma County arrest warrants for the girl's parents, neither Oklahoma City Police Department nor Oklahoma City Animal Welfare were called. So it seems that DHS definitely dropped the ball here. It comes down to whether or not the child welfare worker thought there was a threat of imminent harm, is what that guy said in the video. Legal expert Ed Blau. Yeah, so it doesn't look like the text has any more information than the video did. But let's go back to this Animals 24/7 article. So it goes on to point out the kind of similarities between the death of Lachlan this month and the death of a 6-year-old boy August 17th of last year, 2024, who had been handcuffed wrists and feet at a home in Savannah, Ohio. The outcome could be similar, as was the offense. I remember this case. This was reported on quite extensively by IHD, I believe, so you can probably find his streams that go into the details on this case. I remember him talking about this one pretty extensively because it's an insane case, so I won't cover all the details here now. Oh, there's someone in the chat. I want to make sure they can hear me okay. I can't type and talk very well at the same time. Okay, let's see what they say. Okay, sweet. All right. So, if you recall, there was this horrific case again. The mother and a couple different guys were involved. I don't, one was maybe the boyfriend and the other was like an uncle. I don't remember exactly. Um, but again, this case, they basically tortured this child and he ended up being attacked while I think handcuffed, hands and feet to, I remember him being like tied to a chair and everything. I can't understand like the monsters that engage in this type of behavior, but it is strange that pit bull ownership especially, but any of these types of aggressive, dogs that are known for being aggressive and dangerous, they seem to be owned very often by people who are criminal or degenerate in other ways, like child abusers. Um, so that's the update I have for now on this story. It struck me as particularly disturbing and having a lot of uh, details that really needed to be unpacked. And I'm sure, I mean, I think this is still a developing case. Obviously, this just happened. I mean, this report is from just 4 days ago. So there may be more details that emerge. I'll try to keep an eye out for more on this story, especially since the parents are, being actually charged with murder and held on like $1 million bond. So this case is probably one that's worth following. So I'll keep an eye out for updates. All right, and that brings me to the next topic that I plan to address tonight, and something I have covered in the past and I refuse to stop covering. So, as I've reported previously, and you can find my other streams about this, there have been multiple reports at this point over the course of years that one of the methods um, being used in these Zionist occupation detention centers, detention facilities, um, is, I hate to even, it's hard to even say this out loud. They're using dogs there to literally, rape detainees. And I want to point out that Israel has maybe the only, or definitely the largest amount of child prisoners. So just keep that in mind. Um, but this just came out a few days ago, and it is the headline: Israeli prison guards are using dogs to rape Palestinians, former detainees say. Sexual torture is systemic inside Israel's detention camps. Um, yeah, exactly. Dogs of War. We're gonna get to that. This rabbit hole. So this is what inspired me to stream tonight. Actually, I've gone down a bit of a crazy rabbit hole, and I'm looking forward to sharing the information I've found with everyone, with all my listeners. Um, but yeah, Dogs of War, truly. So, a leading human rights group has published the testimony of a Palestinian man who says guards used a dog to rape him in a notorious Zionist occupation detention camp. The testimony collected by Palestinian Center for Human Rights, PCHR, is the most recent of at least 4 reports of dogs being used in the sexual torture of detainees at the Sde Timan facility and elsewhere. Quote, they know once they rape someone with a dog or with a stick that these people won't be able to carry out their jobs or live their lives normally. Basil Al-Sarani, International Advocacy officer at PCHR told Novara Media. It's part of their genocidal intention to destroy Palestinians. A UN Commission of Inquiry found in March that Israel's use of sexual violence was systemic, serving to, quote, dominate, oppress, and destroy the Palestinian people in whole or in part. And reminder, this is the prison, if you even want to call it that. I think it's beyond a prison at this point. But this is the place that gained global notoriety earlier this month after footage was leaked of soldiers gang raping a captive there. And reminder, Israeli society decided to protest in support of those rapists, not in, anger that prisoners are being raped in these places. So anyways, this is the same place. So we know that rape and sexual violence and torture are being used systemically. The man who described being raped with a dog spoke to PCHR in October after 19 months in detention there. In his first weeks at the camp, he was taken with a group of other detainees to, quote, a place far from the cameras, he told a field researcher. We were stripped completely. Soldiers brought dogs that climbed on us and urinated on me, he said. Then one of the dogs raped me. The dog, quote, and I'm sorry, but this needs to be exposed, inserted his penis into my anus while the soldiers kept beating and torturing us and spraying pepper spray in our faces. I suffered a severe psychological breakdown and deep humiliation, he said. I lost control because I could never have imagined experiencing such a thing. Another detainee, aged 18, told PCHR that soldiers raped him and other captives using bottles and that during the ordeal, quote, there was also a dog behind us, as if the dog was raping us. They violated our dignity and destroyed our spirits and our hope for life, he said. I had wanted to continue my education. Now I'm lost after what happened to me. Last year, and I covered this in multiple other streams, Palestinian lawyer Fadi Saif ad-Din Bakr told the Geneva-based Euromed Human Rights Monitor that he witnessed a dog being used to rape someone in this prison. Soldiers brought him and two others to a cement courtyard, he said in an October 2024 Al Jazeera documentary. Then they took one of the other men, beat him, stripped him naked, and tied his hands and feet. A captain came, this is a quote from Fadi. A captain came and sprayed something on his backside. He said there was a dog there. They unleashed the dog on him. The dog raped the young man. It raped him, literally speaking. In July 2024, Mohammed Arab, Gaza correspondent for the Qatar-based Al Arabi TV, told a lawyer who visited him in detention that he had witnessed soldiers sexually abuse captives with dogs at this same prison. Quote, one of the soldiers tried to get one of the dogs to rape one of the prisoners, he said. They teach their dogs to have sex with prisoners. Can you imagine? In May, PCHR released a report based on interviews with 100 people who were detained by Israel between 2023 and 2024, alongside testimony from the center's lawyer who visited 53 Palestinians held in Israeli detention in late 2024. The report concluded that the Zionist entity's torture of captives from Gaza was so widespread and severe that it constituted an act of genocide. Al-Sarrani said that the widespread use of torture and degrading treatment was intended to destroy the fabric of Palestinian society at every level. Is that not what we see, like, dog culture in general doing? I mean, this is kind of, like, taken to its extreme. Dogs being used as an instrument of sexual torture is literally like a psychological warfare tactic, and I actually will get into that. So this is the rabbit hole I was talking about. This gets deep, like, and I want to shout out Kanan because I'm pretty sure he mentioned this before and I didn't follow up. Anyways, okay, back on topic. Al-Sarrani said the widespread use of torture and degrading treatment was intended to destroy the fabric of Palestinian society at every level. Many of the people whose cases we documented were doctors, journalists, medical workers, teachers. The use of dogs to torture, maim, or even kill Palestinian detainees is apparently widespread. PCHR's May report includes testimony from a 48-year-old man who was detained at Al Shifa Hospital before being taken to military outpost and then 5 different detention centers over the course of 56 days. At one, he said guards set police dogs on him and other detainees, quote, allowing them to tear into our flesh. He witnessed a dog mauling another man's genitals. He said, he bled to death in my arms. It is unclear where Israel gets the dogs it uses in its detention facilities, but dogs in the military's specialized canine unit are almost entirely sourced from Europe, according to John Spencer, a researcher who was embedded with the IDF. I reported on that. There's a specific kennel in the Netherlands called Four Winds Canine, I believe, that has already in the past had to pay what's the word, damages for one of their dogs that was imported to Israel being used on an innocent Palestinian man to maul him. So all of these places, these are specific. I mean, we can find the information on the actual people, companies, businesses, everything. You know, this stuff isn't just materializing out of thin air. These places exist and need to be investigated, shut down, sued, whatever needs to happen. I mean, these are war crimes. This is genocide. So that's what I'm saying. Like, in the quest for, I mean, what could be more, I guess, of an impactful thing for dog culture critics to focus on or report on than dogs being used to commit literal war crimes and genocide? Okay, oh yeah, so here it does mention that Four Winds canine. All right, so let me keep reading. Between October 2023 and February 2025, police dog companies in the Netherlands were granted veterinary certificates allowing them to export at least 110 dogs to Israel, according to the Center for Research on Multinationals. The vast majority of those licenses were granted to a company called Four Winds Canine. Al-Serrani said PCHR representatives will travel to the Netherlands in September and meet with officials from the International Criminal Court with whom they will share the evidence gathered for their reports. PCHR is one of 3 Palestinian rights groups recently hit with sanctions by the US, of course, after it helped the ICC with cases against Israeli officials. Al-Serrani said the sanctions have been devastating for his organization and more generally for efforts to hold Israel to account for genocide. Well, we are going to hold them to account. And I'm getting a couple of comments that my audio is low. So if anyone can confirm, I'm talking basically as loud as I can right now with my throat being a little bit sore. And so this may be the best I can do as far as the audio, but please let me know. If it's really bad, I might stop the stream and try to, I don't know, troubleshoot some more. But if it's a tolerable level, I'd prefer to keep going. Okay, it is quiet. I don't know what the deal is. Since you guys are here, sorry to derail the stream like this, but I'm gonna test something really quick if you guys can help me. Let me try this. Okay, it seems like that didn't work. Okay, yeah. Sorry guys. Uh, this is my first stream in a while, and I'm obviously a little rusty, and I really don't know what the deal is with my mic right now. Um, from what I can see from OBS Studio, it looks like it's picking up the sound okay. So I have to scroll to max sound. Yeah, I'm sorry guys. I hate to be doing this live. Dang, that sucks too because I'm really like wanting to cover these topics tonight. Um, I have a lot of good stuff to go over. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. Um, Bear with me. I'm going to just play some music for a minute while I go grab some different headphones. And I'm gonna try to connect those. Oh, okay, you can understand me fine. All right, I'm just gonna keep going. And once I finish this stream, I'll go back and listen to it, obviously, and see if there's anything I can do um, to improve the sound quality afterwards. If not, and it sounds really shitty, I'll just do a new stream with the different headphones that I have. Okay, but let me continue. And go here to, I just wanted to back up. So this is the story that was last year. So there is precedent for this happening. I mean, this has been known to happen for a while now. It's been recorded for a while now. I've reported on this and 4 Winds K9 in the past, extensively in other streams, so I won't spend more time on this. I just want people who maybe weren't aware of this, they're new to this information, to know that this is something that has been documented for a while now. Now, where things start to get really crazy is when I was looking into this recent story from that I just read. There was a comment I saw online with regards to this, saying that this specific technique of using dogs to sexually torture people was something that was actually also done in fascist Chile. Now, and I don't know a lot about Chilean history, so I started going down this rabbit hole looking into this, and I found this. Bestia, how the Oscar-nominated stop-motion short explored Chilean torture. This is from March 17th, 2022. The Annie winners talked about exploring one of Chile's darkest periods and meeting Guillermo del Toro at the recent Oscar nominees luncheon. Okay. So I just want to pause here for a second. You see this image of a woman sitting at a dining table in the kitchen across from a dog. Okay. Bestia is certainly the most provocative and unsettling of the Oscar-nominated shorts this season, exploring through stop motion the complex mindscape of Ingrid Olderock, the notorious Woman of the Dogs, an agent of the secret police who trained dogs to torture and rape women during Chile's military dictatorship of the 70s. Bestia won the Annie Award for Animated Short, giving it momentum heading into the Oscars. We tried to represent this topic as if it were a regular relationship with a woman and a dog at the beginning of the film, said Chilean animator and director Hugo Covarrubias. More than a pet and like a companion, their relationship is very symbiotic. In our vision, we made a fiction based on real events. We took her mental images, so you don't know what's real and what's not, and the symbolism is a lot more indirect than direct. Blah, blah, blah. Covarrubias, who previously worked in theater and TV, found a kindred spirit in documentary filmmaker Tavo Diaz, who produced Bestia. The timing was perfect. The Chilean animation community had become a force to be reckoned with thanks to global outreach of the Oscar-winning Bear Story short from 2016. Bestia, too, has been celebrated, with President Gabriel Boric tweeting about it before taking office. Both Covarrubias and Diaz were keen on shining a light on older Rock's human rights violations half a century ago, especially given the backdrop of the 2019 social protests in Chile that have led to a constitutional reform and transformational change. Bestia began ambitiously as a potential series before pivoting to a short because of limited funds. Stop motion seemed a very appropriate technique, though, using porcelain-like puppets to convey Ingrid's cold nature and felt-made puppets to convey the dog's joyous warmth. Is that not sick? Oh my god. So even in cases where dogs are being used as literal rapists, they're like making sure to portray them as these cute, fluffy good boys. Anyways, okay. I don't want to linger too long on this, but I think it's important. Okay, Ingrid's puppets are made out of resin because it's lighter and unbreakable. It looks like ceramics or porcelain, but the concepts are the same. Basically, they're making her out to be a woman with no expressions and represent her as this cold, hard character. The contrast is very shocking for audience to symbolically witness the abuse of the dog. I want to remind you that the dog's being used to rape people, rape women, rape and torture people, but they're portraying it in this film as the dog being abused. I don't know. I'm reading this for the first time with you guys, and it's very confusing to me. But what I would do, I don't want to linger on just like analyzing the film itself. I want to go and show you that like this is a real woman who was known for training dogs to rape women and torture people. And so she is Ingrid Felicitas Olderock Benhard, better known as Woman of the Dogs, who was a Carabineros de Chile major who was converted into an agent of the DINA, which is the Chilean secret police, in 1973, and was responsible for human rights violations during the first years of the military dictatorship in Chile under Pinochet, I think. So, and then this gets so crazy, guys. Olderock was a descendant of Nazi-affiliated Germans. Her father hailed from Hamburg and her mother from Munich. According to Nancy Guzman, a journalist and author of the book Ingrid Olderock, The Woman of the Dogs, this might be an interesting book to get a hold of for dog culture critics. The future agent was raised in a very authoritarian family environment where there was a certain contempt for Latin American culture, considering it less prone to order. Her parents had their children learn to use musical instruments, dance, write, and they have to speak in German exclusively. Here's a quote. I have been a Nazi since I was a child, since I learned that the best period Germany experienced was when the Nazis were in power, when there was work and peace, and there were no shameless thieves. Is this not completely fucking unhinged? Like, you guys have no idea when I was not expecting to go down this type of rabbit hole tonight. But okay, so in October of 1973, Olderock joined the DINA with the rank of captain and participated in the Women's School of the institution, where approximately 70 women were trained in methods of torture, as well as repressive tactics against opponents of the military dictatorship. According to sources, during her tenure at the DINA, she became privy to secrets related to Project Andrea, which was led by the Pinochet military dictatorship to manufacture and apply sarin against opponents. In 1974, the DINA established its first detention centers, among which was Venda Sexy, where Olderock would commit torture and rape using a dog named Volodia. So that comment I saw on the post about the rape of Palestinian detainees by dogs in Zionist detention facilities actually does also trace to these Nazis that fled Germany to South America, or to Chile in this case, who were using dogs to rape people in detention centers. Like, why is there like a historical thread of this exact type of thing? Anyways, so this is the um, facility that the Woman of Dogs used. Of course, it was a German Shepherd named Volodia, uh, trained to rape female inmates. Um, I mean, I don't even have words for how sick this is, but I thought it was very, very interesting that this same type of behavior is occurring at different points in history, but it's connected to these German Shepherd dogs, Nazis fleeing from Germany, um, all the way to, you know, Zionists torturing the Palestinian people. Okay, so that led me to uncover a little bit more information on why there were all these Nazis in Chile after, post World War II. Um, so I just wanted to go over this story quickly. Uh, Colonia Dignidad, the disturbing German cult in Chile that was founded by Nazis and child abusers. I mean, why is it that there's just this thread of child abuse? I mean, it's almost like everything you pull back, like everything you start to investigate, ends up leading to kind of down these same paths that lead you to these weird cults. You have Nazis with their German shepherds. Yeah, the choice breed of fascist. German shepherds were basically the choice breed of that weird what was that called? The process church of the final judgment, and like the son of Sam murders, the sons of Sam murders. And yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just not that good of a student of history, but I had no idea that there was like Nazi cults and these fascist, torture facilities in Chile. Um, so beginning in 1961, Nazi fugitives and followers of Minister Paul Schaefer flocked to Colonia Dignidad, a sprawling compound in Chile where cult members were separated from their families and forced to perform physical labor. Today, Baviera is a charming destination in the countryside of Chile. Tourists can enjoy the German architecture, feast upon European food, and wander the picturesque foothills nearby. But it wasn't always this way. Before becoming Via Baviera, it was Colonia Dignidad, the base of a violent sect and the site of horrendous sexual abuse and torture. The colony was established in the 1960s by a former Nazi named Paul Schaefer. He ruled the cult with an iron fist, separating children from their parents and installing cameras and microphones across the 53-square-mile property so he could keep an eye on members. Schaefer also struck a bargain with Chilean dictator General Augusto Pinochet, transforming Colonia Dignidad into a torture chamber for Pinochet's enemies. This is the story of Colonia Dignidad, the notorious Nazi cult in Chile that became a beloved tourist attraction. So let's just take a moment to appreciate this picture of German shepherds again. The Nazi origins of Colonia Dignidad. The story of Colonia Dignidad began with Paul Schaefer. Born in Germany in 1921, he was a member of the Hitler Youth and became a Nazi medic during World War II. When the conflict ended with an Allied victory in 1945, debatable, Schaefer was able to avoid punishment for his Nazi ties by transforming himself as a Lutheran minister. Wandering the countryside and preaching about sexual abstinence, ironic, that seems to be a common thread, doesn't it? Schaefer soon gained a cult following and eventually established an orphanage in Siegburg. But in the late 1950s, the authorities realized a sinister truth about Schaefer. Despite his sermons about abstinence, he had been accused of molesting 2 boys. Are any of us surprised? I mean, let's continue. So this is him, Nazi cult leader Paul Schaefer, with his 2 dogs, who I'm sure he treated better than the children. Because of this accusation and fearful that his Nazi past would come to light, Schaefer fled to Chile with dozens of his followers in 1961. According to The Independent, he was assisted by an underground Nazi network in South America, as well as pro-Nazi factions in the Chilean military. Schaefer bought a few thousand acres of land and established Colonia Dignidad, Colony of Dignity. Man, these people love colonies. An anti-Semitic, anti-communist cult some 200 miles south of Santiago. Over the next several decades, terrible things would happen behind its barbed wire fences. Violence, abuse, exploitation, and slave labor. In the 1960s and 70s, Colonia Dignidad had around 300 members. Their lives were tightly controlled by Paul Schaefer, whom his followers called Tío Permanente, or our eternal uncle. Schaefer, who was always surrounded by a group of young boys, separated babies from their parents the moment they were born. The babies would be raised communally, meaning that their mothers and fathers would only catch glimpses of them in the colony's dining hall. Schaefer sexually abused the children around him, to no one's surprise whatsoever. And his followers were taught that it was an honor for a child to share his bed. Why are all of these cults like this? These followers, many of whom were orphans, worked day and night without pay. Meanwhile, children who misbehaved were given electric shocks or tranquilizers as punishment. The survivors still suffer massively from the severe psychological and physical consequences after years of harm caused by violence, abuse, exploitation, and slave labor, a 2019 commission in Berlin found. Though Schaefer had constructed a power plant, 2 airstrips, and a television station, only he and his closest associates were allowed to consume any media. Everyone else was blocked out from the world, and barbed wire, guard towers, and hidden cameras and microphones ensured that they wouldn't be able to escape. In 1973, Paul Schaefer became even more powerful, and life in Colonia Dignidad more violent when the cult leader struck a deal with Chilean dictator General Augusto Pinochet. At this point, it becomes a torture center, and you'll recognize that this DINA, the Secret Intelligence Agency of Pinochet, comes up now. And this is the Secret Intelligence Agency that used the, Ingrid Oldenrock's rape dogs. So it says there was an agreement. So I just want to think about this for a moment. You have a fascist dictator, military dictator, General Augusto Pinochet in Chile, cooperating and forming deals with a weird Nazi torture sexual abuse cult in Chile for some reason. The world, I swear truth is stranger than fiction. I could have never imagined covering any of these topics. Okay, so after Pinochet came to power following a military coup, he and this German cult leader, Schaefer, struck a bargain. Schaefer could export timber, wheat, corn, and German specialties like bratwurst and import whatever he needed without paying taxes. Plus, the government would do nothing about people who escaped this cult and reported the abuse, but in return, Schaefer permitted Pinochet to use Colonia Dignidad's underground tunnel system as a secret prison and torture chamber. Like, are we gonna pretend am I supposed to believe that some random cult leader was able to just, escape his past as a Nazi, flee to Chile, buy thousands of acres that just happen to have a tunnel system underneath, runways, like a power plant? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of details I need here to understand how did this German Nazi get the funds and the ability and the people there to join him in his cult? Like, there just seems to be a lot more going on here that needs to be investigated. Okay, so they ended up, of course, torturing and killing people there. And let's see, eventually it sounds like after Pinochet, without his protection, um, the truth about this place came to light. Schaefer fled this colony in 1997. 1997. That's how recent this was going on. Like, this is crazy. So they uncovered 100 assault rifles, 90 submachine guns, thousands of hand grenades, surface to air missiles. Like, this is what I'm saying. This guy was very connected. That's just crazy to me. Um, all right, so in 2005, he was arrested and sentenced to 20 years in prison for the sexual abuse of 25 German and Chilean children, torture, the illegal possession of weapons, and one count of murder. He died in 2010. And now this is apparently a tourist spot, but how wild is this? Okay, so again, just to reiterate, Al Jazeera also reported on this Chilean uh, torture that was going on with this, you know, so-called intelligence agency, the DINA. And I wanted to cover this just because of the connection to, using a dog for psychological torture, psychological warfare, just as a way to break a person by, basically forcing them into bestiality. I mean, I can't even imagine the psychological damage that something like that causes a person. And then of course it turns out I just brought this up to kind of go over the fact that there seems to be uh just a really I was unaware, I guess, of the kind of reach that Nazism had. Because this is saying that there was support of Nazism in Chile prior to even Adolf Hitler becoming Chancellor of Germany, which I find really interesting. I did not know about that. So it says Nazi spy networks were operating in the country in Chile between 1937 and 1944, and between 1941 and 1947, with the help of the US FBI, the Chilean government investigated Nazi activity and later expanded to other parts of Latin America. So I just thought that was kind of wild. And then the last thing, or one, not the last thing, actually, there's two more things I want to cover. Um, but just to kind of tie this all back together, because we started with parents basically intentionally using dogs as a weapon to harm their children, like those parents who Okay, I'm being told by YouTube that I have an excellent connection. I hope the stream is back now. That was weird. I don't know what happened. It just suddenly disconnected. Okay, it looks like I'm back. That was weird. I don't know what happened. I was basically just saying that there's kind of a strange thread that's taken us all the way from, dogs being used to torture people in Zionist detention facilities, all the way to Chile, where we find weird Nazis using dogs to rape political prisoners and cooperating with other fascist regimes. I just find it so strange that these threads can be traced like that. And honestly, I know sometimes I get criticized for not staying completely on topic with regards to dogs, and that's fair. But I do want to point out that I never um, said or intended for my channel to be kind of restricted. I always wanted to be able to talk about basically whatever topics I want to talk about. Um, so that's what I do. And I think that it's fair, and I think that there is a strong connection between dog culture and the lack of civility that we face, and things like colonization, oppression of peoples, torture, obviously. Dogs are being used as weapons, dogs are being used as murder weapons, even by parents, it seems. Um, okay, and so I wanted to tie kind of some loose ends together by just pointing out that Zionism and Nazism are basically fascist ideologies, and that there is historical references to point to about how Zionism and Nazism kind of benefit each other and benefit from each other. And I just find it interesting because this topic seems to be difficult to gain, understanding on. It seems like this topic is avoided frequently. And I just think it's important to kind of draw these parallels or tie these loose ends up, um, because we see so many of the same types of, I don't know, behaviors, outcomes. Uh, and I wanted to just talk about this briefly. So I learned about this man named Faris Yahya, and he is and considered himself to be Palestinian, but he was the son of like a British um, officer. So he was born Godfrey Glob in Jerusalem in 1939, the son of John Bagot Glob, better known as Glob Pasha, and Muriel Rosemary Forbes. His father was a renowned British military officer and served as the commander of the Arab Legion. Um, and anyways, you can find out, I posted this on my page the other day, but you can read this short, I think it's 85-page book that he wrote about Zionist relations with Nazi Germany. I actually plan to make a separate video or stream just on this alone, but I wanted to go ahead and point it out here and kind of tee it up because I think that there is a strong connection between um, all of these different fascist regimes or movements, and it's just weird that oftentimes when you find terrible abuses of people, you will find a dog next to, the person who is the abusive or, criminal. Um, Dogs are basically, very useful tools for the forces of evil, is what I'm trying to get at. And on that note, the last thing I wanted to cover quickly relates to some other research I've done in the past, and I was really excited because I came across a TikTok channel in which a girl is doing her own research on dogs being used in colonialism, and her topic in particular has to do with the Rhodesian Ridgeback. So I just wanted to play a few of her little TikToks, her TikTok videos here, and I'll be following along with her too because she's doing research and writing a paper currently on this topic, from what I understand. And so I'm planning to follow along with what she finds and what she writes. So let me see if I can put this up here. So this is titled Dogs as Weapons of Terror. This video.
Growling, cheated of their favorite game of chasing natives like animals. The dogs in the gun were an armor against fear. If a native came to sight along the Kafir paths half a mile away, the dogs would flush him up a tree as if he were a bird. These are the 3 quotes I picked from today's reading, The Old Chief Mshlanga, for my paper, where I'm giving a political history of the Rhodesian Ridgeback. The Rhodesian Ridgeback serving as a symbol as to why I am scared of white people's dogs as a Zimbabwean. Now, The Old Chief Mshlanga is written by Doris Lessing, who grew up in colonial Zimbabwe. She set the story in South Africa, pre-apartheid South Africa, and I think it really speaks to the broader character of settler colonialism in Southern Africa. The story is in the perspective of the daughter of a settler, which is really similar to Doris's own experiences, and we see how a snippet of what life is like for her. And there is a really prominent role of dogs. When we see the dogs, they're always partnered with a gun. And I don't think that this is an accident. It is very intentional. I think it is to show the violence that was used to legitimize land theft and also terrorize and scare Africans from fighting back. And we see that. The dogs in the story are clearly meant to be aggressors towards Africans. And like I said, they formalized the displacement of land. So yes, white people's dogs did play a part in colonial terror. This is why I picked this story. I wanted to show, one, how passive it seems, because this is not what the story is about, but you do see how dogs are set upon the natives as punishment for being disobedient or like not going out of the way fast enough. And we see how dogs were used as weapons of terror against Africans. The story is only 12 pages long, so if you have time, I do recommend that you read it. I am going to be using this in my paper, just referring to it. I will probably use the quote, I'll probably use the cheated of their favorite game of chasing natives like animals in my paper. Usually when I write a paper, I already have an idea of what it is that I'm trying to say, especially for a paper like this, where I am articulating a personal fear informed by personal histories. But yeah, that was the reading for today. Very simple. Tomorrow we're going to be reading Innocent Dande's The Colonial what? State? Oh, The Colonial State, and it's talking about how African dog owners were penalized and like how that happened. And then Sandra Stewart, Dogs and Dogma. I will have the readings in the bio, the caption of this video. I'm going to bed.
Okay, so that was one of the videos I wanted to put up here on her research she's doing with respect to the Rhodesian Ridgeback and the experience of Zimbabweans. I just thought that was super interesting, and I think she mentioned at the end there about African dog ownership being like criminalized or somewhat not. It's a different situation uh, when you have a people who are oppressed. So in this case, it sounds like the uh, Ridgeback was a tool that was used, like the dog in this case was being used as a tool to oppress a people, which I just find interesting because I'm pretty sure I remember something similar going on with Thomas Jefferson. I'll have to go back and reference that, so I don't want to misspeak. But let me find the next clip I wanted to look at.
The dogs, sniffing and growling, cheated of their favorite game of chasing natives like animals. The dogs.
Okay, we have this one. I think this is similar to the last clip. She's reading quotes from some texts, which I'll try to find the sources of this as well. It might provide some interesting context or just some interesting reference material. Sound is not working. Okay. I'm having so many technical difficulties tonight. It's kind of embarrassing. But you know, that's what happens when you don't do something in a while for a while.
The
And
dogs sniffing and growling cheated
you get a little
of
restless.
their favorite game of chasing natives like animals. The dogs and the gun weren't armor against fear. If a native came to sight along the Kafir paths half a mile away, the dogs would flush him up a tree as if he were a bird. These are the 3 quotes I picked from today's reading the Old Chief Mshlanga
Okay, well, I think you get the point. So
for my
I'm gonna be following along
for my paper where
with the research she's doing on the Rhodesian Ridgeback in particular. I think it might be an interesting case study and an interesting just additional example of some of the things that myself and others have covered with regards to dogs being used as weapons and tools of oppression, which is something I think pretty much all dog culture critics are on the same page about, in that dogs should not be allowed to be just used as a weapon by anyone. Um, it's not controllable. I mean, we've reported on multiple cases of police dogs being sicked on completely innocent standerbys, like, you know, people just in the wrong place at the wrong time. The police dogs have attacked their own, you know, handlers multiple times. Um, so yeah, I just think it's good and interesting to compile multiple examples of this type of thing. And I recognize that, as someone commented earlier, where was that comment? By Control Alt. Where is the comment? Well, it basically made a comment. Yeah, war crimes and unflattering portrayal of dogs is going to be a tough one for mainstream to swallow. Uh, I think we all recognize that you know, we're kind of fighting an uphill battle. Although I will say that I think there are signs that the tide is turning a bit, and I really appreciate everyone who is producing dog culture critique material. And oh my god. All right, I'm just gonna end it.